Fox 19 Now presents Movies with Mitchell on Fox 19 Now Plus.
Thank you so much for joining us for Movies with Mitchell, where we're bringing cinema to the Queen City. I'm Caroline Gerhardt.
And I'm Mitchell Davey.
And Mitchell, I'm always excited for these episodes, but I'm really excited today because you got to go to one of the foremost film festivals in the country, South by Southwest in Austin. I know we talked about Sundance, but I think Sundance and South by Southwest have both kind of become synonymous with the American Film Festival, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so tell me about the experience. What was it like? How did you get this opportunity too?
Yeah, so Austin is one of my favorite cities in the U.S. I've loved visiting there and having the opportunity to visit there. So when I heard about South by a few years ago, I said, I got to make it my mission to get there at one point. So it was really fun getting there because it's such a flourishing artistic community, so locally based, and seeing all these incredible movies with packed crowds really added to that experience, I think. Yeah,
some of the video that you sent in, so many people showed up. What was it like to be able to experience? I know film festivals, there's such a sense of community, but I think Austin has really taken that in stride to making, I know the phrase, keep Austin weird. I think South by has really contributed to that, right?
It has, because South by is not just a film festival, it's music, it's comedy, it's business conference. So you have a lot of different art forms out there that a lot of different artists flock to this city for. So it's not just like engaging with film people. I engage with comedians, with musicians, with people from different companies around the US. So it's really just so innovative and experiential.
I love it. So you were there for 4 days. And you saw how many movies in 4 days?
About 13 to 14.
That's crazy. Like that's a lot of sitting in a dark theater. How did you kind of get through it? Because I know people think, oh, you're sitting watching movies, must be hard work, but you're taking notes, you're trying to like experience it, you know, from the artistic standpoint too. How did you kind of get through it? Yeah,
what's great about South by is that the venues are all like around the corner from each other, so it's not a lot of like commute time. So I tried to schedule my stuff back to back as possible with afternoon breaks so I could check out the marketing activations, get the free swag from movie studios, like experience what the festival actually is outside of screenings.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's get right into it. You broke down some of the movies that you got to see. And we're starting with one that I had not heard of before I started looking into South by, but I'm excited to see it now. It's called Pizza Movie. There are lots of familiar faces. Of course, people are going to recognize Gaten Matarazzo from Stranger Things, and then I loved the Goldbergs. And so, what's the actor's name? I forgot.
Sean Gambron, I think.
That's right. Tell me what this movie is about.
So this was bar none the craziest thing I could have started my festival off with. It was one of those premises. I read the sentence like summary, and I said I got to be there to see whether it succeeds or doesn't succeed. But it's about two college freshmen living in a dorm who discover a box of, let's say, drugs from a previous resident. They decide to take one, not knowing that it's going to alter their perception of reality so exponentially. And there's an interesting twist where that they ordered pizza an hour before, and the entire movie is them traveling through 3 flights of stairs down to get their pizza while just not being in reality presently.
That, and I can imagine you reading that and thinking, okay, is this really going to work?
Is this
or
bad?
Not? Is it going to be corny? Especially because these are two now adult actors who were child actors, so I feel like this is very much a movie where they're trying to come into their, professional career as adults. It could not work. Did it work though?
I think it does to an extent. I think there's a point in this film, the first 30 minutes alone, I was like, this actually could be good. Then it goes completely off the rails in a way that either is going to work or not work for you completely. And I think that's going to be the litmus test where audiences have to go like, I'm into this or I'm not into this.
Like to an extent, the audience is also having to suspend their own reality watching the movie because already when you're watching somebody, experience something like that, it's not, you have to kind of let everything else go out the window. But I will say, I feel like maybe the college experience of it all is something that people might be able to relate to.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very funny how they kind of play around the dorm structure. The RAs in this movie are treated as like an antagonistic task force that barge into dorms, take stuff that's confiscated. And Caleb Herron is one of the RAs who doesn't really buy into that whole mentality, so he's too nice to residents. So it's just so funny on that level.
And if you don't know who Caleb Herron is, you have to look him up. I love Caleb Herron so much. He's such an incredible comedian. So I was very excited to see that he's in this film too. Okay, your final. Oh, and Daniel Radcliffe is in it?
He's in it for like 5 minutes.
I just saw that. Love that too. Okay, what was your rating?
I gave this a 2.5. I think, as mentioned, it doesn't really completely work for me, but I respect it on a level. I think audiences will love it when it comes to Hulu on April 3rd.
Nice. Alrighty. Next movie we're talking about is Ready or Not 2. We already chatted about this a little bit. I had not seen the first Ready or Not, so I'm always curious about sequels like this. And it came out, the first one came out a good bit ago, so they're following up a little bit later. For those who don't know what Ready or Not is, the premise, give them a little sneak peek.
Yeah, so Ready or Not is like a splatter horror film series about a woman marrying into a wealthy family that actually worships satanic forces and has to survive their deadly game of hide and seek if she wants to make it out alive.
So wild, just to start. This is a star-studded cast.
It really is.
So many great people in it. So, oh my gosh, I love Elijah Wood.
Yeah.
Who doesn't? Tell me a little bit about what you thought going into this, because I know, especially at a film festival, sequels, it can be tough for them to make their own, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So South by has a pattern of like premiering these really audience-based horror movies there every year. So when I saw this was announced, I knew I had to see like the audience reaction to it.
Yeah.
They were really into it. I unfortunately was not as into it, but I think that it's one of those movies where I went in really not really understanding whether this would be a sequel that warrants its existence or not, or if it just kind of would be like nothing new in that sense.
Yeah, I feel like this is one, the original Ready or Not has honestly gained popularity now a few years after it was first released, and so it's almost like they wanted to capitalize on that and
I think so,
and get the sequel going. All right, what was your rating for this one?
I gave this a 1.5. I feel like I didn't even see the first one. I just watched a recap. But even the stuff in the movie that I like watched from the recap, I feel like they're not doing anything different here. I think if you've seen the first one, you've seen this one. I love Sarah Michelle Gellar. I love Elijah Wood, but this doesn't really do anything unique.
Yeah, alrighty. Hey, you heard it here first, I guess. Okay, the next one we're talking about, I know I've said I'm so excited. I'm so genuinely, I can't wait to talk about this. Power Ballad. I hadn't heard about it until you put this on the list for today. Nick Jonas and Paul Rudd. End of sentence.
End sentence. You can go in knowing that and nothing else.
Right. Okay, so tell me about the concept for this, because it's kind of wild, but it also, we were joking earlier, it's like Nick Jonas is just kind of playing himself.
Yeah. So Paul Rudd plays a wedding singer in Europe who has a run-in with a popular American pop star played by Nick Jonas. And after a jam session, a few months pass, and the wedding singer is shocked to find his original song he played for the singer is now playing on the radio, which means that Nick Jonas's character stole it from him. It's the story of him trying to get it back and get the credit at any cost necessary.
Okay, and I have a really deep cut here that some people might not understand, but there's a show called Veronica Mars. It was Kristen Bell's start, and Paul Rudd had a guest star spot in that show where he played someone who had a one-hit wonder and like went to the college, like performed at the college that Veronica Mars was at. I digress. When I first saw this trailer, I was like, oh my gosh, he's like essentially reprising his role from that TV show. So funny to me. The trailer, as it kind of goes on, it gets more intense and kind of action-based than I think people might expect from the description. How does that unfold? That's what I was referring to, the fighting. And how did you walk away from this movie?
Yeah, it definitely unfolds in a way you can't really expect going in. There are some shocks in the third act that'll be very fun for audiences to kind of uncover. And I really walked away from this one loving it. I think it's my favorite of the festival overall. Because it's just so strong, it's so comedic, yet also emotional. Really has a nice balance between everything.
Was the audience reaction the same? Did you feel like it was kind of a good
Absolutely.
consensus?
I think this is a crowd pleaser. It releases on June 5th in theaters from Lionsgate, so I think this is going to be one that a lot of people tend to flock to for Rudd and Jonas, of course, but it's also just a really great film to walk in knowing nothing about.
And last question about this one, music obviously is a huge part of it. How does the music hold up to the film?
Yeah, there's some original songs in here that I was shocked were that good. I can't wait for them to release on Spotify so I can actually like listen to them again because I want to hear them.
Okay, good. Love to hear that.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the next one. We're talking about Obsession. It's a Blumhouse film. As you said, horror usually makes a big splash at South by. Tell me about the concept for this one.
Yeah, so Obsession follows the story of Bear. He is a lonely music store employee who has a relationship woe with his childhood friend Nikki. He wants to show his feelings, isn't sure really how to. He walks through a local magic shop one day and finds a product called a one-wish willow, where if you break the willow, make a wish, it comes to life. He one night desperately says, I wish Nikki loved me more than anyone in the entire world, breaks the willow, and what unfolds is unlike anything you can possibly expect going in.
Yeah, I think it takes the term be careful what you wish for to a whole
a
whole new level. Sometimes, we talked about this actually in our live segment today. Sometimes films like this where like there's one main premise, sometimes it's time travel. Things can get a little repetitive. Did you feel like it fell into that?
I actually think this is one of the movies that does that be careful what you wish for premise in a completely different way, which is why I loved it. It's off the walls crazy. That third act is going to be very, very inescapable. My jaw was on the floor for most of that movie. But I think it really is just a unique horror premise that I haven't seen before.
Love that. Okay, cool. I'm glad to hear that because I thought it looked interesting, so I hoped it wasn't falling into kind of some of the typical tropes that we see sometimes. Tell me, for people who might not be good with jump scares, like for people who aren't horror fans, could they still watch this and be okay? I feel like that's always people's main question.
That's the main question, right? I think this one is entertaining enough where you could. There are some terrible jump scares in here, but it's more so psychological horror where everything unfolds and you kind of just want to like look away because you know where it's heading, but you can't really leave the film. You're just glued in the entire time.
Okay, I love that though. That's super cool. Rating for this one?
4.5 out of 5.
Wow.
I think it's one of probably the best horror movie I've seen all year so far, and I'd be like shocked if anything surpasses it.
That's incredible. Okay, love to hear that. We have another horror film we're talking about now too, Hokum, which we're going to start the trailer in just a second, and just a heads up, there is a jump scare in the first few seconds of the trailer, so listen to us instead of watching the screen for a second if you're not into the jump scares. Tell me, I couldn't get anything from the trailer on this about what the premise is, but all I could tell is it reminds me of the Blair Witch Trials, and that was enough for me to say I don't know if I'm going to watch this.
Absolutely. So this is one I was really scared to walk into. They scheduled it at like 10 o'clock at night, and I was like, I'm going to get out of this after midnight. I don't know if this is going to sit well with me. I'm glad I went to see it. It was the world premiere, so knowing nothing going in, I think really heightened my expectation, and I ended up loving it. It follows Ohm Bauman, played by Adam Scott. He's a fantasy author who goes to a remote hotel in Ireland after the passing of his parents and uncovers a haunted honeymoon suite that's haunted by the ghost of a witch.
No. Yeah, I mean, I love the premise. I also love Adam Scott.
Yeah.
But this looks absolutely terrifying. So comparing it to like kind of the jump scares and the horror in Obsession, is this scarier then?
I think this is legitimately scarier because it's not just the jump scares that are expertly directed, it's the imagery that is used. There is a creature design in this film that has like caused a visceral reaction to me and the audience where we all jump back when it appeared on screen. And also, I think he utilizes physical space in a very scary way where there are sequences where Ohm will be in the middle of like a curtained bed and you see a shape moving outside of it and it's like, nope, I'm good. I'm done.
All done with that. Yeah, no thank you. Put that away. I know that obviously with horror films too, a lot of it is the experience of being in the theater and everybody reacting kind of how you said to that one jump scare. What were people's reactions kind of walking out, especially this being the world premiere too?
Yeah, it was very late, so a lot of people were shaken up. I definitely think it's a very scary movie. I myself was like really adrenaline pumped at the end of it.
Yeah.
On that level, I'd give it a 4 out of 5. It releases on May 1st from Neon, who's a very big kind of name in the horror space.
Yeah.
And I think if you can see this in a theater, do it. You probably will not like it if you don't like horror, but it's a very fun experience for those who do.
Love that. Okay, I'd be like seeing a matinee maybe. That
maybe like 11 a.m., like get out when it's like light out.
Yeah, watch some cartoons after, have ice cream, recoup. Okay, speaking of going in a complete opposite direction genre-wise, I'm so excited to talk about this. We're not talking about a movie on Movies with Mitchell. We're changing it up on you. We're talking about one of, in my opinion, the greatest comedy shows of all time.
Really, yeah.
The Comeback, Season 3. Tell me about seeing, because did you guys get to see the pilot?
We got to see the first 2 episodes.
Okay, got it. Perfect. If you are not familiar with Valerie Cherish and this character that Lisa Kudrow has created, it is absolutely genius. For those who don't know, tell them about The Comeback.
Yeah, so The Comeback really follows kind of a fake reality star through the ups and downs of the Hollywood kind of landscape. Every season has touched on something really unique within the entertainment industry. I think this definitely touches on stuff that is very timely, very in the conversation now, including artificial intelligence, writer strikes, everything that we've been kind of seeing in the news, it's in this show, which is so fun.
I know that people, I mean, this has a cult following. People have been so excited to know that it's coming back. Did it live up to the hype? Did it live up to the expectations?
I think it did, honestly. I think, you know, we need a show like this now more than ever where Lisa Kudrow can just go all in comedically and really have a blast. She's easily doing that here. The stuff it raises in terms of the entertainment industry is very important, as mentioned, and it's just so, so funny.
Now, my real question is, because this is another show that the first 2 seasons premiered in the early 2000s.
A while ago, yeah.
Yes, and so now the 3rd season is coming back much later. Do people need to watch the first 2 seasons?
Honestly, I did not watch the first 2 seasons. I jumped straight into this one. I was able to follow it completely, so I think it's a crowd pleaser.
Love that. Okay, what was your rating for The Comeback?
I gave the first 2 episodes a 4.5 out of 5. They released on HBO Max, and there's more coming on every Sunday over the next few weeks as well. So if you want to jump in, now's a good time to do it.
I will say, and you kind of mentioned it, it's touching on things, even the earlier seasons that came out a while ago, it touches on things that we're dealing with in everyday life, but it is so funny.
Yes.
This is like a great springtime show.
It is,
I'm so glad it came out this time of year too. Okay, we switched it up on you.
Switched it up.
A TV show on Movies with Mitchell. You never know what's going to come out of this show. All right, next up we're talking about Leviticus. Tell me
another
a little bit
horror.
about this.
Yeah.
Plenty of horror.
Plenty
today.
of horror at South by, yeah.
We threw Lisa Kudrow in there for you.
For like a kind of a palate cleanser in between, yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so what's Leviticus about?
So Leviticus is a new horror film that follows the story of two teenage boys living in a conservative Christian community in Victoria, Australia. As romantic attraction grows between them, they are thrust into a disturbing conversion therapy ritual that unknowingly releases a violent entity between them. They must learn to survive an entity that takes the form of what they desire most, each other.
That's absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
And I would beg to say, too, the climate of our, world right now makes it even more terrifying. Tell me about what was this the world premiere? Or
I think it played at Sundance. I missed it there, and I heard about the hype. I'm like, I need to be there for it.
So you got to see it this time. What was the audience reaction to this?
Audience reaction was definitely into it. It's a very tense film and very anxiety-ridden, also grief-stricken. It's a very heavy emotionally, which is why I'd say it's a very content-aware film where you might want to go in knowing what it's about beforehand so you're prepared for it.
What did you rate this one?
I gave this a 3 out of 5. I think for me, I watched 2 horror films before this that were like knock out the best of the genre, and I think this feels more like It Follows in a sense, where it's very derivative from other films like it and doesn't really do anything original. Again, I think the premise itself is very unique, very important, but it doesn't really do anything to like make it a step above the rest of the competition.
Okay, hey, you're telling it how it is. I appreciate it. Next up, we're talking about The Fox. Tell me about
another late night premiere. Didn't really know what to expect except for the premise itself, which follows the story of Nick, played by Jai Courtney, who is shocked one day to find that his fiancée is having an affair. Desperate to reconcile their relationship, he's shocked when he captures a rogue fox voiced by Olivia Colman, who says if he lets her live, the fox will help him save his relationship, which is a very interesting kind of twist.
You walked into this not knowing what
it's about.
Oh my God. So what was your reaction when you hear this fox with Olivia Colman's voice?
Well, yeah, the interesting thing about it is that the film plays it where characters just treat it like normal, which is very funny because when it happens, they're not going, you can talk, they're going, how do I fix this relationship? They're getting in a conversation with these animals.
Interesting.
It's so unique.
So is it a drama? Is it a comedy? Does it know what it is?
It doesn't really know what it is. I think it's more like a Yorgos Lanthimos film, like Horror Things or something, where it's very out there, but also kind of unintentionally comedic at times, where you're like, that's kind of funny.
Okay, I love that. How was Olivia Colman as a talking fox?
Definitely very in line with, I'd say, her career. I think she does it very perfectly, has the voice that really like sells that, and I think that's one of the strongest points of this film.
Okay, well, did you rate this one?
I gave this a 4 out of 5. It's offbeat, it's quirky, it's very cautionary, but I think it's very weird in a way that's very endearing.
Okay, I was gonna say, because sometimes with movies like this, where I know like Yorgos's movies, they're not for everyone.
Yeah.
They're not my favorite typically, but for people who usually don't venture out into things that are this quirky, you feel like they could.
I do. I think it's very approachable, and I think that's why it works so well.
Love that. Okay, next up, I am so excited to talk about this one. I love Jason Segel so much. We're talking about Over Your Dead Body.
Over Your Dead Body.
Let's talk about the premise for this one.
Yeah, so Over Your Dead Body follows couple Dan and Lisa, played by Jason Segel and Samara Weaving, who was also in Ready or Not 2.
Right, I know, yeah. She had lots of premieres at this one.
So desperate to fix their relationship that's kind of suffering, Dan books the pair into an all-inclusive vacation on a remote island. What they don't know is that both of them have actually plotted to kill the other one while they're on the island, and it's that struggle that really takes the focus here.
And this is made by the people who make The Lonely Island, which is Andy Samberg's comedy troupe that did Pop Star, Never Stop, Never Stopping, which I am not ashamed to admit is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's hilarious. Did that live up to the comedic hype?
I do. It's a very it's a very brutal film where there's a lot of intensity on screen. But it's also unintentionally comedic at times where you'll laugh even though you don't think you're supposed to.
Right,
because it's very out there, very visceral, but also kind of funny, which is a weird mix, I'd say.
Right, because I was going to say, if you just hear the premise alone and, a couple who's trying to kill the other one, I mean, it sounds more like Gone Girl, right?
Exactly.
But this is not, it's not that.
It's very different in tone, I'd say. Like the complete opposite, where that one's dark and oppressive, this one is like kind of funny, even though it's like a situation that's not supposed to be.
And I feel like these two actors were perfect to bring in that comedic sense into something that maybe everybody else wouldn't have been able to pull off. Okay, what'd you rate this one?
I gave this a 3.5 out of 5. I think some of its themes get muddled under that action-coded exterior, where it gets so close to saying something profound about relationships, but doesn't get all the way there.
Got it.
But I think it's fun, it's high octane. Seeing this in the theater will be an absolute blast for sure.
Fun, okay, I love it. All right, next up, we are talking about a movie that when I looked at the South by list on their website, when I knew that we were gonna be talking about this, I had to like scroll back and go, I'm sorry, wait. what are we talking about?
Yeah.
Noah Kahan's Out of Body, excuse me. And Noah Kahan is he's
really,
so popular right now with his music. So what was his movie about?
So his movie is a Netflix documentary that follows his kind of rise to stardom, but also some of his more personal struggles along the way with mental health, with family, and it's really a recollection about his life story, where he's from, where he wants to go, and it's very personal on that level.
Yeah, and I know I'm not super familiar with a lot of his music. I know his main hits that are played on the radio a lot. Are you familiar with his music, and did that kind of factor into?
I am not. No, I walked into this knowing maybe, as you mentioned, maybe like 1 or 2 songs. I was surrounded by people who love his music, which was very discordant. I'm like, I'm here to support him, I guess. So,
that's cool.
But I think it's a very, very entertaining documentary where even if you're not a fan of his music, you'll empathize with this story, and I think that's why it works so well.
Okay, I love that. And then obviously there's some heavier themes in there too, but did it still end up being uplifting? Because I feel like that's, from what I've heard, that's kind of the tone of his music. Like, let's reminisce on what maybe not be going so well, but we're going to end on a positive note.
Yeah, I think it's very heavy in between, but it's also like a concert film in a sense, where you'll see that like very visceral music display in the film, and I think it kind of undercuts those more emotional moments. It makes it more uplifting.
Now, because this is one that you're going to be watching on streaming and not in a theater with other people, you got that experience of being able to kind of be surrounded by his fans. Do you think people will still be able to appreciate it the same way at home?
I do. I think, it would be awesome if it was in the theater, because, the music is very loud, very abrasive, very booming, but I think, it's very personal, and I can understand why it's on Netflix in that sense.
Okay, very cool. And then, sorry, did you say your rating? I apologize.
I gave it a 3.5.
Okay,
I think,
perfect.
Not really a fan of his music, but I appreciate his story, and I think other people will too.
Okay, love that. Next up, we're talking about another horror film.
And
Mitchell, this one, if you liked it, you're really going to have to sell me on it, because this concept always terrifies me. When that Winnie the Pooh horror movie came out, I was very much against that. This is called Buddy.
Buddy.
Tell me about Buddy.
Played at Sundance in their midnight section. People freaked out about it. I saw it was playing at South by. I said, gotta be there for it. Another one where I'm just like, you know what, going in blind, gonna see what happens.
And then you see this monstrosity.
Yeah, and you're like, maybe that was a bad decision,
Right. Maybe I'm regretting.
Another midnight premiere too, which was great. But this follows the story of a children's TV show in the vein of like Barney the Dinosaur mixed with Mr. Rogers, where one day the children who were on the show start to notice that stuff is going wrong, and that Buddy is kind of being more mean than usual. That's all I'm gonna say to set this one up. It's crazy. And
then Keegan-Michael Key is the voice of Buddy, which obviously like notorious for his ridiculous voice acting.
Right.
How was that experience? Because I think a lot of us are very used to hearing him in comedic sense. Obviously, that's not the case.
He's definitely doing like a Barney impersonation here. I was shocked it was him until the end credits rolled. I was like, I didn't know it was him. Like, it was completely different from anything he's ever done before, which is so fun.
That's so fun. Okay, that's the only thing that might get me to watch this, because everything else about this is absolutely terrifying. What did you rate this one?
I gave this one, let's see, I think I gave it a 3 out of 5.
Yeah.
There's been so much homework done for this movie in replicating like a children's TV show.
Wow.
The music cues, the look, the sets, the costume design, all literally feels like an actual TV show you're watching. It's when stuff goes wrong that you're like, oh, no, it's not. That's
so
very
scary.
intense.
I feel like, and that probably just only adds to the horror of
Yes.
it all. Okay. Last, we are talking about Drag. Tell me about this. I know one of the actresses, Lizzie Kaplan. I love everything she's in, so I'm excited to hear about this.
Yeah, so Drag follows the story of a duo of criminals, played by Lizzie Kaplan and Lucy DeVito, who want to rob the wealthy mansion of an artist, played by John Stamos. Everything goes according to plan until Lizzie Kaplan's character throws out her back, and the movie is about her trying to get out of the house over the next 90 minutes.
Oh my gosh, okay. So that also, it kind of sounds a little bit like Pizza Movie in the sense that there's one objective we're trying to get to it for the entire movie. Was this able to make that like go all the way through? Honestly, keep the audience engaged is what I'm asking.
Yeah, I think that, it kind of goes over the top at times where it's like, stuff happens where it seems manufactured to get a reaction out of audiences. Like, that wouldn't really happen if you were dragging someone out of a house.
Right.
But I think on that level, it's very surprising. There's like twists in the third act especially that you will not expect. And I mean, I love John Stamos. I think he's very great in this character role. So I think, even though I gave it a 2.5 out of 5, I think there's a lot to admire about it if audiences are willing to kind of engage with it.
Okay, got it. And then obviously Lucy DeVito, that last name isn't just happenstance.
Yeah.
She's Danny DeVito's
daughter.
How was her performance in this?
It was very minimal, which I wanted to see more of her because, you know, she's the one that's helping Lizzie Kaplan out of the house, but she disappears for large portions of the movie.
I was about to say, you would think that she would be like
a really
part.
like present force here, but I wanted to see more of her. I think she's great with what she's given, but kind of lackluster.
When is that premiering? Is that already out?
It is. There's no distributor or release date attached to this. It's one of those ones where it's like so crazy, you just hope it's picked up.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that I know the people who get to go to these festivals, I'm sure you guys just kind of wait with bated breath afterwards.
Yeah.
Like, okay, when is everybody else going to get to
Especially if you love it, because that means like you
Right.
can't really know when you're going to see it again. Like you see a movie you love and you're like, that was awesome. When can I watch it?
Yeah.
You don't really know.
Wow. Okay, so overall, especially because now you're claiming, you put it out there, Mitchell, South by is your favorite film festival. What did you kind of walk away thinking from the whole experience?
I definitely think, you know, South by is very genre focused, where there was a lot, as mentioned, horror movies.
Yeah.
I mean, there were so many.
Yeah.
But also very crowd-worthy reactions. I think all these movies will play great with audiences in a theater, and I think that speaks to like this summer especially, where it's a bunch of blockbusters, great films like these that people will go check out.
I love it. Okay, and then are you claiming it? Power Ballad was your favorite?
Power Ballad and Obsession, I think it's a tie. Like
A tie.
You can't really like.
Well, and there you got a non-horror and then a horror.
A horror, like
so
two different kind of genres. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much as always for
absolutely.
sharing all those insights with us. We so appreciate it, and thank you for joining us for this latest episode of Movies with Mitchell.
This has been Movies with Mitchell on Fox 19 Now Plus. Presented by Fox 19 Now.